Okay, I think we're ready to roll. Yep, you're good.
Okay, it's your show, if you would.
Oh. I figured you'd at least call the meeting to order.
I can, you can do that.
So, we're gonna, Kevin has asked me, since one of the first things you have is your election of officers. I'm gonna call your meeting to order at 7:03 PM. I'm also surprised I don't see Peggy online to do minutes, but that's okay, we're recording this. We should be fine. So first line of business is the election of officers. I think we will start with chair. Do I have any nominations for chair?
I nominate Kevin for chair.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Oop, Melissa's coming back on a second time, so hang on. Listen, maybe have some internet issues. Oh. Okay, so Melissa, did you hear the previous conversation we had? Oh, she's still connecting the audio. Hey, Melissa. Did you? Whoops. You're still muted. Did you hear the previous conversation in regards to the nomination for chair? Okay. You're muted. I can't hear you. Okay.
There we go. Got it. Sorry.
No, it's all good. You gotta love technology. So
Gosh.
there's a nomination on the floor for chair for Kevin. I've asked, are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Do I have a second for Kevin as chair?
I can't see anything. I'll
Melissa
second. Sorry. I'm trying
That's
to
okay.
get my computer going again.
It's all good. You're right. I don't believe I need a second on that. My bad. It's nominations. So hearing no other
Okay.
nominations. All those in favor of Kevin for chair, please signify by either saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
That would be, I have 4, plus I assume Kevin's gonna vote for himself, so that would be 5. Nothing.
Isn't that for the names?
Do I have any, since you only have 5 members, you had 5 voting in the affirm. I'm gonna go with it, unless you're voting against yourself. No. Okay. The next up is vice chair. So Jeff Lundstedt was vice chair for the longest time. Bill's joining us here. We're gonna give him a sec. There he goes. Bill's on. Nice to see you, Bill. We're electing officers. We just elected Kevin as your chair again. We're about to look for somebody to be vice chair. As I was stating, Jeff was your vice chair for a long time. Jeff has opted not to rejoin the planning commission for this session. So we will be looking for a new vice chair.
Sorry.
All good.
God.
I'll nominate Rob Rooker.
I have a nomination for Rob Brooker. Are there any other nominations? Do I have any other nominations? Do I have any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor of Rob Brooker for vice chair or vice chair, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
That would be a 6-0 on this one. Bill is now attending on this one. And that has passed. So you have your 2 elected leaders. Kevin will be your chair, Rob will be your vice chair. And I'll hand the meeting back over to your chair.
Okay, thank you. So we will move on to item 2, which is review the agenda. I would like to add one issue underneath 5 administrative matters would be item D. To acknowledge that we have an open seat. Are there any other additions, removals, or adjustments for the agenda? Okay, so we'll move on. The next issue is continuing business. Item 3, we have Adam here to continue the discussion on our bylaw modernization grant work.
I am logging in right now.
Okay, we'll give Adam a minute and then he will pick up presumably where we left off.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And Chris, if you would let me share with you. I'm probably gonna need to mute this.
Mute us. I just muted for a moment as Adam was connecting. We didn't want to end up with that wonderful feedback you can get on Zoom. Sometimes we have 2 laptops in the same room. So we're back in business. I've shared with Adam. I think he can now control everything in life he wants, or at least his laptop.
Things and. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
Anyone? What is in the designated village areas, what is the population? Anybody have that?
I
Figure.
used to. If I can find it.
I mean, if you're ready to go, it's not a big thing right now. So.
No, I'm trying to find it for you. Still looking.
Well, while you're looking, I will start. So thank you for having me here again. I'm Adam Lucci. I'm Director of the Regional Planning Commission. I am helping you all we're looking at your zoning regulations. The purpose of the grant that Bristol received and hired me with was to see basically whether there were changes that we could make to your existing zoning within your village area to basically enhance housing opportunities within the town of Bristol. So we've been at this for a little bit. We did some training. We looked at some demographics and talked a little bit about why 1 and 2 unit houses or apartments or things of that nature are more in demand. We spent a fair amount of time on ADUs and revising those regulations. We've most recently been working on your HDR district, high density residential district. That is the district shown in blue on your screen. Hopefully you all can see that. If you can't, speak up now, please. So last time we were looking at your basically your regulations that deal with the HDR district. So your dimensional standards. And in that meeting, we decided that there were 2 of them that we should spend a little bit more time looking at. The first, well, 2, maybe 3, residential density, residential lot size, and lot frontage. The others, basically, we went through and they all worked relatively well for the existing fabric of your village. But those 3, there were in our sample that we'd shown, and our sample is here, which was just a 1 block sample. There were some houses that had smaller width in the frontage than allowed. There were some houses that had smaller lot size in the in what we'd allowed. And the smaller, I guess the smaller lot size also relates directly to residential density. Right now, Bristol in the HDR allows 4 dwelling units per acre, roughly 10,000 square feet, a little bit more than that. So at our last meeting, you all asked me to basically give you a little bit more information. Well, this block size wasn't big enough for you to make a determination. So you asked me to go back and look at the entire village. So can you all see that? And does anybody have any questions thus far? Okay. Hearing none, then basically this is the same village area. And I'm going to just scroll down to the key on the bottom. So the yellow lots here are lots less than 10,000 square feet. So they basically are pre-existing non-conforming lots generally that don't quite meet your current zoning standards. So they were developed sometime before these zoning regulations went into place. They were legally developed, but the zoning put them out of conformity and therefore limits what might be done with them. Similarly, the blue lots basically have less frontage than 75 feet. And the green lots, so they're a little hard to see with the yellow, but you can see them there, basically violate both. So I'm gonna go, everybody okay with that? Everybody understand that, Matt?
I've got a question, like, there's some pretty big blocks of blue. Is that because they're adjacent properties? And they're just.
Yes, if I were to scroll in on those, you'd see that those are more than 1 lots. There are 3 lots or 2 lots or something like that. So that's why the blue looks bigger. But yeah, if you looked really closely, you'd see that those were adjacent.
So there's a combination of frontage issues within some of those larger blue boxes. And
Well, they're different lots. So
yeah, there's
so you can probably zoom in if you want a little bit. Just keep there's nothing really to the north. You're really focusing. You brought in a couple
There.
of snaps.
Okay, can you now see the lot lines?
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so you can see there are blue lots that are close to one another, and they were probably laid out at about the same time and have less than 75 square or 75 feet of frontage. Okay, I'm gonna now go from the map depiction to a basically a histogram, just a chart of parcels, and we'll start with the less than 75 feet because that's the one that came up first. So if you look at the bottom of the chart, that's basically the feet of frontage. Remember your current feet, and these are all of the lots. So let's see, if I go back to, sorry, I'm gonna go back here and I'm gonna make it smaller. There are 441 lots in the town of Bristol, I believe. Let me just read my key. 441 lots. And these will give you totals. So if you look at the key below, can all of you see that? Okay, number of parcels non-compliant with frontage of the 441 parcels in the HDR district. 71 of the parcels don't have 75 feet of frontage. That's about a 16% non-compliance rate. Mean frontage 124, mean non-compliant frontage 63. Range of non-compliant go from basically 40 feet to 74 feet. So I'm gonna flip over to my chart again. Okay, so this just shows the parcels that are non-compliant. This shows the roughly 70, and it's roughly 71 parcels that are non-compliant, and you can see the axis on the left-hand side is the number of parcels. So mostly ones and twos, and on the bottom is the number of feet. Last meeting, I had suggested that we use 60, basically 60 feet as or you consider 60 feet as an amount of frontage. A couple of you expressed some concern about that because of width between buildings or so. If we picked up 60, if we used 60 feet as the frontage, you'd pick up probably a little bit more than half of those 71 instances of non-compliance. So you take it from 16% down to about 8%. But the answer is, if you took it down to 50, you'd pick up a bunch more. If you took it down to 40, you'd pick up all of them. But I guess 60, town of Heinsberg's village is 60. There are places in Middlebury's village that are 60. I haven't seen frontages necessarily, dimensional frontages less than that. So 60 was my recommendation. You know, you may not solve all the problems, but you can certainly make life easier for a number of people, and that's a decision. It's basically a value decision for all of you to make. So I can stop here and we can talk about the 75 feet, or I can basically go back and we can also talk about the give you an overview of the square footage as well. Which would you prefer?
What's the pleasure?
I'd say discuss it now while it's fresh. You know,
Yeah.
we don't
Okay,
get confused with other numbers.
okay, so thoughts? My recollection last time is there was a discussion about width of lots and access with vehicles. There was a discussion about effect on setbacks. So I think we need to revisit those types of discussions and anything else that we may have thought of in the meantime with regards to a change.
So just real quick, while you guys are noodling through questions, to Melissa's question in regards to the village. The only numbers I have is I base it on the water district, which is basically our village. And there's 635 meters. It can be a little deceiving because that does include the mobile home parks and woodland apartments, each have their own meters. So we're about 600 individual residents, and there's about 1,600 total individual residents throughout the town, with a population of about 3,800. So hopefully those numbers
Thanks.
help you.
Thank you.
I was surprised I had.
So, Rob, what do you think about revisiting this change in frontage?
I'm still hesitant to narrow that down based on the development that's needed with the infrastructure in place in the town, with citing wastewater systems and having decent neighborhood qualities, not just having row houses right next to each other with maybe a driveway in between. That's my thought.
Slim?
Yeah, I was gonna also say that I'm hesitant, and it's that, of course, but also that I just having this feeling there's so much unknown coming from the state and et cetera. We're not really sure what our control or effect will have on our town, and doing too much at once. I would rather go a little slower, and these reductions in frontage and in et cetera, I guess I'm hesitant, as Rob said, myself also.
What's the,
Do we know when we'll have a decision, when the state will pass the bill or get signed, whatever? Do we have any kind of time frame on when that's gonna
So,
happen?
I expect it will pass shortly. It's basically, it's through the Senate, it's in the House. It's in discussion, but I expect it will pass. And then the governor has, I think he has 5 days to let it go, veto it, or sign it. So, you will know what the state statute says in 3 weeks, a month.
I'd say about a month, probably.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess I would say because a lot of parts of that statute deal with water or villages with water and wastewater, and the town of Bristol the village of Bristol has water, but not wastewater, with the exception of your downtown block. It may not change very many things to you, so it's a good indicator of where the state is going. It may be something that you want to do to anticipate, but it may not impact most of the village of Bristol.
the other thing we need to keep in mind is this is in play right now. The next biennium, if there is still a housing issue, they could bring up another bill. I mean, it's not like
Yeah,
things are static.
right.
So I think we need to gauge. My opinion, we need to gauge what we know as it exists, and then see what the impact is as time goes on, not just this bill. So Melissa, does that?
Yeah, I
have
just
any
kind of
commentary?
an idea. I mean, I don't know that it would hurt to, to wait another month and see if what comes from the current bill, but for us to make a decision.
And Bill, there you go.
Well, I'm a little reluctant to narrow the frontage requirements. I think it will have some unintended consequences for, I'm thinking particularly for septic setbacks. There's some rules a few years ago about shadowing. And anyhow, there's all kinds of rules about setbacks from your boundary line, I think, and neighbors' wells. So so I'm concerned about that, and I also kind of like the idea of having more more backyard and front yard space among neighbors. So that's how I feel.
Okay, John,
Yeah, I wonder if we could go off screen sharing just so I can see you guys a little bigger. Right now, you're just postage stamp size, but
Would you like me to?
my comment would be that and this is the same I'll say for the lot size as well as the frontage, but I just think that if we shift everything down to include more or most or all of the non-conforming lots, that's sort of like the tail wagging the dog. And it's not like those people don't have a recourse for development. If they want to go to development, they do have to go through a review, but that doesn't mean no. It just means they have to go through a review because they're non-conforming. So to me, that provides them an outlet or a pathway rather to go forward. And something I hadn't thought about, but Bill just mentioned comes to mind, which is in Bristol, unlike a lot of towns, we are mostly on conventional on-site septic. And I hadn't thought about that before, but I suppose there are implications if we put a lot size or a frontage is too small, maybe that's an issue. But Bill, I hadn't thought about that before, but Bristol's unusual that way in that, you know, we're not on a common system and people don't have mound systems in town, at least. So yeah, I'd hate for the tail to wag the dog when there's already an outlet for those folks. If they do want to develop their property, they have a way forward. Thank you.
okay, so I'm not hearing any.
No, I would tell you, we pretty much, that sounded like a no to me.
Yep, or at least we had one, let's wait and see, and the rest of the people had reasons to be concerned, so. So I think if I can lead you all, we will at this point stay with 75-foot frontages unless I'm missing something here. Okay,
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again and we'll do the same analysis of basically the 10,000 square feet. And I would say again, the 10,000 square feet and the 4 dwelling units per acre. We'll do them at the same time and they're so related. I just think that makes sense. Okay. Okay, so the number of parcels not compliant with lot size, and let me go up again. It's the yellow and the green. So the green were not compliant with both. The yellow are not compliant just with the lot size. Okay, so everybody's got a good kind of look at that. So number of parcels not compliant with lot size, 55 of the 441. About 12.5%, so a little less. Lot sizes have a bigger range. They go all the way down to 2,500 square feet, 2,499. So very small. Your mean non-compliant lot size, and that's of the ones that are not compliant, is about 7,500 square feet. Last meeting, I had suggested to you, we look at 8,000 square feet. So let's see. I'm gonna bring you to, whoop. There we go. So this is a histogram of all the HDR parcel sizes. Again, just a chart of all the and again, on the left-hand axis is the number of parcels and then the lot size. So you can see in your village, they're pretty well clustered around the small size, anywhere from, I'll say 7,200 to, let's say 36,000 or so, or just less than an acre. Or let's use the acre. 43,200 is roughly an acre. So you can see where can you all see my cursor? Basically, that's kind of your I guess I'd say the end of your bell curve, and then you have some bigger outliers. But that's where most of your lots lie. If I go down to 10,000 square feet, it's right in here somewhere. Well, let me go down. So this is basically the same chart, but I removed the outliers. So this is a chart of basically the smaller lots within your village. So I talked about an acre or 4,300, if you all can see my cursor, that's about here. So we took off the outliers on the larger end. And this is a basically just a chart of the number of parcels that are of given sizes. And yes, there are some of them in, say, the 1,600 foot range or so that go up beyond 6, but I cut that off too. I just wanted to give you an idea of where things were. If we go to 10,000, here, source. Sorry. There we go. This way I can get to the source data. And so 10,000 to 10,080 square feet, there are 3 lots. That's about where the 10,000 foot mark is. So everything to the left of my arrow of my cursor, as you can see it, basically those are your 55 non-conforming ones. Everything to the right conforms.
I couldn't really see it that well. How many are 16,000 or at 16,000?
I think there are only 3 in that one particular category, but each of these, they're
Okay.
packed pretty densely. And remember, I cut the ones above 6 off. So, but you can see all your lot sizes, or the vast majority of your lot sizes, I would say, are clustered between 20,000 and 10,000, let's say. There's significantly more of those. Back to sheet 1. So the way this works is it's a little harder to see, but spread it out. Excuse me 1 second.
Should like the graph bigger?
There we go. This is the top graph, the histograph of lot sizes, smaller than 10,000. These are the lots that are basically non-conforming. So again, you can see at your last meeting, I'd recommended down to about 8,000. That gets maybe a third of them or so. You all can see where my cursor is. All the ones to the right of my cursor are between under 10, so non-conforming, but over 8. If you went down to 7,500, this line here, you've got a pretty clear break. In that you'd pick up a fair amount more.
That'd be about 7,000.
Yeah. If you went, excuse me, you're right, 7,059. So that's about 7,000. So if you went down to 7,000 square feet, you'd pick up a fair amount more. The ones to the left would be lacking. And again, I'm not saying that you should pick up every single outlier and let the tail wag the dog, as John said, but I am suggesting that you've got a lot of people here that who have pre-existing non-conforming lots. So when those lots were developed, they were legal. The zoning standards have changed over time. They've basically become non-conforming. They do have more process to go if they want to redevelop some housing on their lots. Since this exercise is about developing housing, that's why we're talking about doing these things.
If I can, just a clarifying thing, what if we applied the minimum lot frontage time, the minimum, is there a minimum depth? Lot depth too?
Let's see, yes. So your lot depth is also 75 feet, but most of your lots are deeper than they are wide.
So that is like,
So you didn't have any violations that I saw of lot depth, or there were very few. Let's put it that way.
so 75 by 75 is 5,600 square feet. That's a so let's go around. We ready for input?
Are these? Quick question, are these all developed lots?
I don't know that.
Okay,
I would tell you, it's the village, so I would say the vast majority of them are, but there are some undeveloped lots in your village, and therefore, no, not all.
potentially non-conforming undeveloped lots, but most likely they're all these non-conforming ones are already developed.
I would suggest, and you can pitch in, Chris, but I would suggest that most of the potential building lots are part of a lot that ends up being the larger lots identified. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of any
Sure.
existing empty non-conforming lots, is there? Are you aware of any?
No.
So you can see, on the underlying ortho, if I zoom in a little bit more, most of them have houses on them. There may be one or two, but I would say that most of them that I can see are developed. And that makes sense for your village.
Comments, John?
Well, I would just reiterate what I said earlier. I won't repeat it, but yeah, I mean, if anybody comes up with a lot for sale, you got a valuable thing in the village because people are dying for them. But yeah,
Okay,
I'll just stand by the tail wagging the dog comment. That's all.
okay, Bill?
Well, I'm thinking about a couple of related issues. One is just to refresh my memory. Is there any restriction on the use of rights of way to get to a portion of a lot that might not have direct frontage on the road. I can't remember how that has changed over the years. That's one. And secondly, it seems like there's a interconnection with the questions about multiple family. That if our rules now allow I expect it's on a conforming lot to expand the number of households, number of units. I'd want to get a little more comfortable with how many more units that would allow in the village as compared with going to a smaller lot size, which would have the same expansion possibilities. Seems to me there's a way to reach a balance between those two goals. If we weren't changing anything else, I'd be inclined to favor going to a smaller lot size, but before I made a final decision, I'd want to see how that would affect higher density housing in the form of multiple units on the new lots or the smaller lots.
Bill, I believe it's 35, you need a 35-foot right of way.
Okay,
For a single family, for a single parcel.
okay, thanks for refreshing my memory.
And the planning commission would need to approve it if it doesn't already exist.
Okay.
If the right of way doesn't already exist. DRB, excuse me, yes, DRB. That's his first question. That's the answer to Bill's first question. The answer to Bill's second question is, we're gonna, my plan, assuming we get through this, is to talk about multifamily and how and when they're allowed and at what ratio. So that's the next portion of the discussion. They are interrelated and they do impact one another. So it's hard for me to give you, I can't predict how you're gonna, what you all as a group are gonna say about those. So it's possible is the answer. And if they could both work together and create more density or not, depending on what you all want to do.
I hear you, Adam, and I'm just resisting the temptation to make a decision that's going to foreclose some options later on. Just saying, for me, it'll be a joint decision. And not ruling out smaller lot size, minimum lot size. But it'll be connected to the kind of recommendations we develop for the multifamily, multi-household. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa,
Yeah, my thinking on the square footage was not really necessarily about how many we could bring into compliance by changing it, because we were talking about going to 8,000 from 10,000. So I was wondering how many, how many parcels that would affect. So anything but from 16 to 20,000, how many parcels there are, because that's the difference. If it's 20,000, if we have it at 10 as a minimum, right now, if somebody has a 20,000 parcel, they can divide it in half. And so I'm wondering if we make it 8, then how many under 20, between 16 and 20,000 would be able to then divide their property if they wanted to. Sorry if that was kind of convoluted.
No, I think
Yeah.
I understand the question.
Yeah.
And so if I look at 21,006 here, There look to be about eight of those, some more. Most of your parcels, again, are between, I'm gonna say that the 10,000 and probably 20. Well, in between 20,000, 10 and 20,000, that's right in here, that's this whole block. You have 451 of them. So yes, there are some 20,000 square foot parcels that could possibly be subdivided even now if you went to 8,000 square feet, you know, in the 16 range. So
Okay.
there are some parcels in the 16,000, it would increase it. I'm not sure how. It would increase the possibility of those subdivisions of those existing parcels on the larger size in your village.
And that's not the square footage minimum requirement. That's not something you can get an exemption on, or you can go to the zoning and get it approved to, oh, it's only
Right.
18,000 square feet, so I'm gonna divide it in half. You can't. That would be a
Right, that's-
no-go on that, right?
There are waivers on some of the other dimensional standards potentially,
not-
but not on the square footage.
Okay, thanks.
Slim,
Yeah, hi. I have a little hard time visualizing the difference between 8 and 10,000 or exactly what it looks like. So I was gonna ask you, Kevin, like how big is your lot, that corner lot you have there?
our corner lot is 105 by 198. And it's 0.47 acres, I think.
So you're just a little over that 10,000,
That's 20,000.
100 by 100?
105 by 198.
Oh, 190, yeah, okay.
So there's 20,000, just over 20,000 square feet.
Yep. So let's see. Well, as of now, I guess I just think the town of Bristol has a very nice density. We know it's gonna get more dense. It's hard knowing for me just how dense it's going to be. So I personally would not rush into opening it up too much. So yeah, I'm not sure though. I'm undecided.
Okay, and then Rob?
I'm hesitant to go to a smaller lot size, just outright lot size of from 10,000 because of the infrastructure constraints as well, and what that would mean for having to create the more common creation of interior lots, not fronting the roads and right of ways, and what that would mean for be a lot of planned potentially, but that'd be a different animal getting into that, so.
Okay. I have a little, the way it's set up right now, saying that you have a 10,000 square foot minimum lot, but you can only put 4 lots or 4 units per acre. The math doesn't add up. Correct. That bothers me a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm hung on an 8,000 square foot lot or 10,000 square foot lot. I am not so sure that maybe, like you say, a 10,000 square foot lot, maybe it's the minimum. But if you go to a duplex, which goes back to Bill's question to a degree, do you have to have 20,000 square feet to put a duplex on that?
So the density bonus would be a whole nother discussion,
Yeah.
you know, doing
So-
5 per acre on a planned development instead of just 10,000 square foot lots is a different story, and it
Yeah.
looks completely
Or
different
just-
if it's.
Or
laid
just
out.
if you put a duplex in, you can do that on 16,000 square feet or something, I don't know. But I think, I'm not, like I said, I'm not hung up, you know, for very, very similar reasons that everybody's expressed on the 10,000 minimum. I am hung up a little bit on at least duplexes requiring 20,000 square feet. So. Now I don't know where that leads you.
Okay, well, it's a good segue if everybody feels like they've said their piece on this, and I'd say we've either got more no's or undecideds, and the undecideds are basically leaning on some of the questions that you asked, so I guess I'm happy to move on unless there's someone who hasn't had.
Whoops, John's got his hand up.
Just a quick, excuse me, I stayed out tonight because I have a bit of a cold. Adam, when the state talks about like a density per acre, that gets reduced. Like if you have half an acre, you can still achieve that density per acre. You don't have to have an acre to get to that density, right?
Correct.
I'm not sure I'm asking the
So-
question right, but maybe you know what I mean, like.
Yes, so if, for example, in Bristol, under your current regs, on an acre, you could put 4 units. Basically, Kevin's right, it's a little more than 10,000 square foot per lot, but theoretically, you could have 4 lots with a little more than 10,000 square feet. If you had a undeveloped 1 acre lot and wanted to do it just that way. Did that answer your question?
I think so. I guess I'm just, does the 1 acre density travel below, to lots? It applies
Yes.
to lots
If I
that
had
are half an acre,
Yes,
right? Okay.
correct.
So if you had a half acre, you could have 2 lots, 2 units. If you had a quarter acre, you could have 1.
Right,
Is that, that's
basically.
your question, right, John?
Yes, thank you.
So the 10,000, if you were to create a 10,000 square foot lot, you would not be able to build on. That's one of your issues with density, is it's less than a quarter acre. So it creates that, unless it's part of a PUD. So if you were just to carve off just a 10,000 square foot lot, and that's what you sold somebody, they do not have enough density to build a home on. Now, if it's part of a PUD, where that's the reason why we did the smaller lot size, was that the PUD would allow, especially when you get outside of the smaller lots here, to cluster things. If you're sitting on a bigger lot, you might do a handful of small lots near the front and leave the back wide open. And that's what the goal and hope was by doing those numbers, if I remember right from the era.
So I think to clarify that, Chris, you'd have to sell somebody 10,900 square feet to be a quarter acre lot. That's
To meet density.
to meet density. As opposed to 10,000 square feet.
I would have
That's-
said it a little different. I would have said if you had the square footage to subdivide what I'll call the mother lot, then you could make a lot down to 10,000 square feet and it would be developable. The mother lot might retain a little extra, and it would still be developable.
Right.
So,
But to do that, I think you would go through a PUD. If not, you're creating a standalone lot that.
Yeah.
It's. Yeah, it's.
I that's a point I kind of made, is I think the square footage and units per acre need to jive a whole lot closer than we've got right now.
In the village, it makes sense. As soon as you start looking that further out, it doesn't make sense when you try to do clustering development.
well, you've got to track the mother lots and basically what they've retained and what density they've used.
Right. That's why I said with the PUD, if you had a half acre lot, you want to create 2 lots. You want to create one 10,000 square foot lot, the mother lot has to keep about 13,000 square feet. In about 2,000 of it, they're giving up any potential development rights, set aside land, for lack of better. It's what a lot of tech communities refer to it as. So you could do that with the PUD, and it would create a viable lot at that point in time, because they would be married at that calculation point.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, right.
Okay. Any other questions on lot size?
No, just that whole discussion completely confused me now. I
It is
don't
confusing.
understand why would you have a lot at 10,000 feet we have all these lots at 10,000 feet and you're not supposed to build on it? I'm very confused now with it. Of 10,000 being under a quarter of an acre, then how can you build on it?
If you had 40,000 if you had a 40,000 square foot lot, it wouldn't allow you to build 4 building lots. You would need 1 acre to be able to create 4 building lots. I guess that's the best way to look at it. Not a good way to,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
the-
understand that. So then how can you have a house on something that's less than 10,000? I mean, grandfathering in all the
So-
other small ones.
So most of these lots were developed prior to your existing zoning.
Yes, no, I'm just saying going forward is what I'm saying. So if somebody has right now, our minimum is 10,000 square feet. Is that right? So how can anybody, if they have 10,000 square foot lot, they can't build a unit there?
it depends when it was created. There is statute that pre-existing small lots
Okay,
under single ownership.
okay,
I also would have said, Melissa, that if I had let's say a half-acre lot. So roughly 21,500 square feet. What's my
Uh-huh.
exact calculation, Kevin? Anyway, you could have a 11,500 square foot lot and you could have a 10,000 square foot lot. You could subdivide out 1 more lot out of them. Does that make sense?
not if you
The-
need 10,900 square feet to put a unit.
You don't, is what I
Okay.
would say. I would say the density per acre applies to what I would call the mother lot or the existing lot.
Okay,
So what you have now,
okay. So you're saying that a half acre would mean you could put two units on it. So if you divide it, you could still put 2 units on it. One
a
on
half
each.
acre, you could subdivide into 2 units, yes.
Okay, okay.
Sorry to have muddied those waters.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so are we ready to leave this topic and kind of leave it as it is, potentially a little open-ended and go into talking about, say, duplexes first?
I think so.
And whether or not, so currently, you have in your dimensional standards, your residential standards are 4 dwelling units per acre for residential density. And it does not matter whether you have a single family unit, a 2-family unit, or a multi-family unit. Each unit, basically, you can get 4 units per acre. So you could do if you had an acre property, theoretically, you could do 4 single-family homes, or you could do 2 duplexes, or you could do 1 4-unit multifamily home on your acre. The question that I am putting to you now is, should that be a sliding scale to encourage more unit density? So, for example, should you be able to put more, if we're talking duplexes for now, you have that same acre. Rather than putting 2 duplexes there, should you be able to put more than 2 duplexes there? Should it be a 1-to-1 trade? So you could put 4 duplexes there, the same number as you could for single families? Should it be a 50% increase? So you could put basically 3 duplexes there or 6 units on your acre. And let's just deal with duplexes right now. Let's not jump into multifamilies. Does everybody understand the question? No.
Maybe you could rephrase it.
I guess the answer is, is Bristol let's see, should residential density per unit be the same across dwelling types, across single, one family, two family, and multifamily, 3 or more? Or should there be a sliding scale where you potentially allowed greater density for duplexes and or multifamily units? And I guess I wanted to stick with duplexes first because it's the question that Kevin put on the table. And again, for our example, we'll use an acre parcel, right? Let's say we have an undeveloped acre parcel. Theoretically, I could put, under your current zoning regulations, I could put 4 dwelling units on it. So I could put 1 single family house, or 4 single family houses. Or I could put 2 duplexes. A duplex has 2 units, so 2 times 2 is 4. Or I could put 1 4-unit multifamily on that acre. And the results look a lot different, or potentially look a lot different.
I'm share the screen, just get back to people for a moment, do you mind?
Yeah,
you still need
no,
to
I'm
map this?
happy to go back to people.
So I guess thinking about HDR, we have a lot of existing lots that are already formed. So the question of acre open lot might not be as real, and maybe we differentiate the 2 different questions. That may not be as real as somebody taking a existing house on an existing lot that may or may not be the right size, being half acre, to convert it to a duplex.
So if I had, under your current regs, if I had a 1/3 of an acre, right? I basically could get 1 unit on it. I couldn't get a duplex on it. I could get a single family home. So yes, another way of looking at it is how many units per acre do you want to? So if I had a single, if you increase the density for duplexes, I might be able to get 1 duplex on that 1/3 of an acre. Because I'd still have 10,000 square feet of a lot, and I'd basically have a duplex on it.
And that's where this discussion sort of came out of, from my standpoint, was that call, I get that call a lot. Of whether it's right in the HDR or in the VR, which is half acre zone. We have a lot of houses either right on the periphery or right in the village. They're allowed 1 unit. The most recent example, somebody's sitting out in village residential half acre, and they want to create it into a duplex. They can't. It's a huge, it's a half acre lot with a single house on it, and they're like, I've got the room. They don't want to add to the house, they want to convert the existing home. So that's where this comes from. So that's my real life situations.
Melissa, I'm sorry, did you have anything more to say?
I was thinking I might go back to the screen sharing, the map that showed your existing duplexes,
Okay.
2s and 3s. But you can talk while I do that.
Let's start out with Melissa for comments. You're
There
muted.
we go. Got it. I don't know. I think to allow more duplexes would probably be a good idea, because usually duplexes, or somebody, like you're saying, want to add to it, it's going to be hopefully in keeping with the look of the village. And could that also, my question would be, is a duplex limited? What is the maximum? Is there a maximum size or square foot, say, that a duplex can be? Or is that something that can be, what is that?
I would say it's 5,000 square feet, so the duplex is the
Okay.
principal dwelling and you have a 5,000 square foot.
Okay. If there are
There's-
concerns about not having or having more duplexes, would it be possible to have, like you said, almost kind of like that, like a sliding scale, like if depending on your lot size, how large a duplex would be allowed on that parcel? Would that be a possibility?
What? Rated.
You do have, yes, you do have a lot coverage ratio, so you can't basically pave more than, or pave
Yeah,
more than 50% of your lot. Or
Okay.
put a house that creates more than a house driveway, impervious surfaces that are more than 50% of your lot. So the map
Right.
that I just pulled up for you, and then I'll go back to all your faces, is I guess I'd say an incomplete study. It's not everything, but it's the ones that Chris and Kevin know that are either ADUs, duplexes, or multifamily units.
So the coverage, lot coverage is just the building area. In further different definition. In our,
It's not the driveway as well?
it says lot coverage, percentage of the lot covered by the building area.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
In the building area, the total area is taken on a horizontal plane at the main finished grade level of the principal building, in all accessory buildings, including carports, porches, terraces, and decks.
okay, so it's buildings, not driveways, so I misspoke there. Thank you.
I was looking at the exact same thing.
So again, this map is I guess a rough study of basically your existing multi-units, and you can see that they're in blue. You can see the number of units that are there. Duplexes in green and ADUs in pink that exist within your village. There may be more. These were the ones that Kevin and Chris were able to think of.
Do you have a total of what those numbers of units are? Not the total number of units, but the number of,
I don't write off the top of my head, but
Okay.
I would say
It's about 40.
40.
You're talking about the number of total dots.
yes, yep. Buildings, not units within them.
So roughly 1/10 of the structures in your
Yeah.
village.
those ADUs, I think, I'm sorry, it's difficult with my glasses, but I'd say it looks like it says 2 on each one of those, so that's 2 separate ADUs or,
Just one, it's the
Two-
main unit and an ADU.
oh, okay, so 2 means how many are, okay, units on that lot, okay, gotcha.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. That was just kind of food for thought for you to think about what exists within your village and what you like and don't like, and you can all answer that better than I can.
So Melissa, the question was with you. Are you satisfied at this point?
What, the way it is now with the density?
Well, the question of how do we treat duplexes as with respect to density or acreage?
Yeah. I mean, I think I might be for increasing it to 3 from 2. So that you do have people that want to create duplexes right now that can't. You know,
So
I-
you create a sliding scale
right,
in which duplexes received basically a 50% more density than single family lots under your current regulations. So on an acre, theoretically, I could build 3 duplexes, 6 units. versus 4 single-family homes, right?
Slim,
Well, okay, so on that 1 acre example, with the 50% bonus, you get six units on the 3 duplexes, but and before we were talking about how you would be able to get 4 single-family homes on that same area, correct?
Yes,
But the way things are now and are going to be, that actually equal 8, because with each of those single-family homes would be allowed to put an ADU as long as everything was copacetic with the sizes and all of ground cover. Have I got that right?
that is a possibility, yes.
So
It's
I was,
probably not a probability, but it's definitely a possibility.
well, if somebody's a developer, it might be a probability, but be that as it may, that's where my brain got stuck on that, and I'm thinking that therefore perhaps the multifamily or duplexes might be worthy, so to speak, of a little more density bonus possibly. If single families can put on the ADU, you're going to get the density that way. Which might be, I mean, I don't know if it's better or worse, I'm just saying, that's what I was thinking about. That's all I got.
So one of your concerns, Slim, that you mentioned was developers using that. I believe if you keep the same language you have now, it's a requirement that it's owner occupied.
It is, but it,
Does that already have to be occupied to construct it?
No, but the owner would have to occupy one, so I could go in and build a house with an ADU.
Yeah.
And you could come by and then have a rental already built in, yes.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's
They
not.
could still be constructed with 2
Right.
units.
I can't own all 4 of them.
Right.
And have 7 rentals, or 8 rentals.
No, but I could build and sell them and there would be 8 units there.
Yeah,
I'm saying, there's a chance to get 8. That's just truth, I think. So that's all I was thinking of. As I'm
okay,
thinking.
thank you. Rob. Are you done, Slim? Rob,
When I start looking at density bonus and everything else, it's a slippery slope for me, because thinking about the fact of the already developed village and what that is going to implications on parking, drives, frontages, all that sort of thing, what that's going to change as you're creating multiple more units out of the existing structures that are there potentially, instead of planned development of that. I think there's more to it than just straightforward yes, no on the density bonus. What's that look like? Is it any different for existing structure versus a proposed structure? Is it? That's.
you can make it as simple or as complex as you choose to. Yes.
it's like the example you brought up of Heinsberg's density bonus. It's 10 pages.
It's a little over the top.
And then some communities, it's 1 paragraph.
John,
Yeah, I find myself torn as we consider density bonuses, which I want to support. And on the prior 2 topics, the less frontage and the smaller lot size, like I want to support more density generally. I really do. Like philosophically, it's in line with what I believe. I also believe it's coming whether we want it or not. But I feel like, just speaking for myself, like I could be much more enthusiastic about these densifying type of changes that we're discussing if I felt like we were going to have ways to make the more density fit in. And I know we've talked about this before, so I'm not going to open that all up, but I know the board has indicated a reluctance to consider regulating or reviewing single-family homes to any higher standard than we do now, which is to say almost no standard at all. And I just feel like if we had that on the table as a possibility, if we could have sort of protections for existing homes and for the overall character of the village in particular, I'm concerned with the village, not so much the outlying land where there's a lot of elbow room, but excuse me. I just feel like if we were as a group considering like a more holistic approach to welcoming density, that we might find it easier to, adopt some of these policies, a density bonus, for example, which I, again, very much want to support, but not if it just comes without any review. So that's kind of what I'm wrestling with.
We could get you a density, we could get you a review on multifamily units, but not 1, 2s or ADUs.
Well, I mean, we could pass a review process that applied to all single-family homes, and then we could have that review.
Not according to the current statute.
Well, I guess I was anticipating the coming statute. I mean, under the current statute, we may adopt a different kind of review for, say, an ADU than a single-family home. That might change with this new legislation, where we can't hold these higher density developments like ADU, say, or multifamilies to a higher standard than we hold a single-family home.
Right. And
Right,
I
so-
don't believe you can apply site plan review to single-family units, duplexes, or ADUs.
Well, I'm not sure of the terminology, but I mean, there's got to be a way. I mean, we could have ordinances for noise and light and that sort of thing. Hold everybody to the same standard.
Okay. Bill.
I'm still thinking about what all this would mean, Kevin, and am undecided. I think we can create some opportunities for higher density here and there, but I'm a little concerned about the scope of what we're talking about now. And I was already thinking about the septic issue, but I'd forgotten about the parking issue that comes with putting 4 units plus accessories where you might have had 1 or 2 before. I think I just want to think about this some more, Kevin.
Okay. I look at the existing fabric of the village, not so much how to develop an acre. And there's the study is 40, I counted them out, there's 43 or 44 units that Chris and I identified, and we probably got maybe half of them, 40 to 60% of the units in the village identified. There's a significant number of them, if not a majority of the ones we identified on a duplex or a multifamily for that matter, that sit today on a non-conforming lot. And I think it is restrictive given how those fit in the village and from the past going forward. And I think at the end of the day, my goal would be to make our zoning mirror what the village is like. The village was developed over 100, 200 years or whatever. And people got it right the first time around, and we're preoccupied about screwing it up, you know? And maybe justifiably so. I think to Melissa's comment of a 50% bonus, you know, then that is talking about a wide open lot, but I think when you get down to existing lots, and you're dealing with something that maybe not quite half an acre, or maybe not quite 3/4 of an acre, whatever the case may be in the village, then you're looking to adapt that for higher use. We need to look, I'm looking, at least personally, looking towards the fabric of the village, as opposed to thinking of it as a wide open spot. So I'm not sure if I really cleared up issues or not with that, but that's where my thoughts are, is to try to match what we have for a fabric. Melissa?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of that as per acre. I was thinking of, you know, you had the example of the person that wanted to turn their add to their home to make it a duplex, and they can't. And if we move something like that, if we move it to 3 per acre, they may be able to do that. Density wise.
Okay, thank you.
So just a couple things that were mentioned that were concerns. One is parking. I drive around quite often, and I can think of a handful of duplexes right off the top of my head that it's not an issue. I can also think of single family homes where it's a huge issue. So right now we require 1 spot for a single family home. And so the parking issue, I don't care what we put in place, it's going to be an issue. Whether it's, so we can try to contain that with better parking standards, or back at the town level, more of an ordinance on street and things like that. Wastewater, that's out of our hands. We're fortunate we live in the village where we are sitting on a pile of sand and gravel, and we can do a lot of conventional septic. Gives us a lot more flexibility than as soon as you start hitting where we're putting in mounds. Luckily, I don't live in that world, other than I just have to look at state permits when they come in. So those are concerns, but I don't think they should be true limiting factors without some hard study data if you wanted to. Because I don't, especially the parking, I don't see that as a huge issue in the village.
Okay, so I'm not sure anything's gelled, other than I'm hearing, and to recap, chime in if this is not really what I should have heard or thought I heard, but to recap, I think we're open to providing some sort of bonus or reduction or incentive to a duplex, but there are concerns about the limitations or the impact of doing that needs to be further thought about. Is that fair? Does anybody adamantly oppose that statement?
So. Still be, so for the four per acre, you'd still be for over 16,000 for a duplex that you'd need 16, almost 16,350 per square footage. So I don't know how much of a impact that has on the existing lots.
So just, can you say that again?
So with a 50% bonus per square
Okay.
footage, right? To do a duplex, if it's 10,890 for one, then it would be 16,335 for a
Okay, so
duplex.
just-
If I'm doing that right, figuring that right. So, I mean, that gets it, it's got to encompass some of those lots. within that window between a half acre and that. I don't know what the number is.
I can try and
Just,
screen
just,
share it if you want me to.
just throwing
ballpark
that
it.
out there, yeah. The other thing is something like this with this bonus applies for duplex. Does that cascade on to multifamily as well by default, or is this? Can it all be separated out and done individually with no direct correlation? Okay,
So I would say, basically, we talked about duplexes. The next place I'd go is multifamily, so we divide them out.
Okay.
And you could do it for, if you wanted to divide it further, multifamily less than X, whether that's 4 or 6 or 10, that would be all up to you. But we can, there are a lot of ways we can slice this pie. So I would say your decision on duplexes doesn't necessarily impact your decision on multifamilies. I think Melissa's trying to say something.
Oh, Melissa, if you're
I'm
muted.
telling my dog, no, she's,
Oh.
but what was I gonna, oh, back to, I'm sorry, I don't wanna really, back to John's point, I mean, the more I think about it, the more I think we should have some kind of discussion about ordinances that we may need as we increase density. And actually, in fact, may need at this point already, and we don't have, such as the lighting. And I mean, there's this, where I live is considered part of the village up here at Rockydale, that little section. And somebody across the street has this bright light on that's on all night. And there's nothing that could be done about that right now. So, I don't know. I think we would sometimes set aside some for discussion for that.
So you couldn't do it in your zoning, but you could do it as a separate ordinance.
Yeah,
Correct.
or
The select board would have- the
And
select
is that
board would have to do it.
Is that something that we would, include as part of the plan? Or how does that component work?
I'd say that would be up to you all.
Well, to what I'm hearing, if the select board is the one that initiates it, we can suggest it or recommend it, but it's ultimately a select board decision.
If it's an ordinance, the select board drives that.
So if we go to them and say, we suggest that you implement this ordinance, we can't just say that, we have to say, see, because the density is going to start increasing in the village with our new plan or something, we have to back it up as to why we want that ordinance. Is that something that maybe we should consider doing to make us all more comfortable with actually increasing the density of the village?
I would support that approach. I mean, I think the density's coming, whether we want it or invite it or not. And I think if we're designing more density, it's sort of like designing fast cars, but not thinking about the rules of the road first,
Okay,
One quick note also on parking, the upcoming housing legislation would, if it passes, allow municipalities to have a review process for one issue, parking. So it acknowledges the viability of that sort of review for one issue, parking. We could have that.
Doesn't it just say that it has the same review as that it has to have the same as a single family home?
The ordinance as drafted, the ordinance would allow towns to review parking plans.
I don't think it's parking plans. I think it's too soon.
It's
We don't need to get into that now. We can discuss it at a different time.
I'm happy to do that.
So I think probably my last question for you tonight would be, do you want to talk about whether or not you want a sliding scale for, we just talked about duplexes. How does the planning commission feel about that for multifamily homes? And I would say, if multifamily homes, is there a unit limit on multifamily homes that you'd like to apply your bonus to? I think, Kevin, this will be the last question of the night, and then I may wave the red flag and or the white flag and get us out of the HDR district, and next meeting move on to basically your multi or your mixed district.
So just to
I had a
clarify,
question about it. When you say multifamily, is that one home or are you talking an apartment building? A small
An
apartment?
apartment building, so it would be a building with 3 or more units in it.
Okay, but right now it's limited to 4 units per. Whatever you said per acre.
Acre. Yes, so I could
Yeah.
put an apartment building, or if I had an acre of land in the village.
Yeah.
I could divide up my single family home into 4 units. Or I could build, if I had an undeveloped acre, I could build a 4-unit multifamily apartment on it. Kevin's, I think, question is more relevant. I used an acre because it's easy math, honestly. And it ties to your regs, but the question about what exists in your village and what are practical solutions in your village is probably a better one. So the one Kevin is asking is probably a better one. If you've got a big old house on 1/3 of an acre, let's say, and 1/3 of an acre is relatively average for your village. Should you be able to make it into a multifamily unit or a duplex, which is what we just talked about? So that's another way to think about this discussion. And, I guess the other limitation that you all could choose to put on it is, does your density bonus go to only a certain size of multifamily units? So multifamily unit is 3 to infinity. Is there a logical place where you don't want to do that and you don't want to go?
Okay, Rob, what do you think?
well, I think if we apply it for duplexes, we should apply it to some limit for multifamily homes as well. Whether it's the same limit or if it gets adjusted because of what you can do in a smaller footprint, because it's theoretically vertical as well. If there's an increased bonus for that I'm not sure of. In my mind, but I think that if it goes to duplex, it should go to multifamily, whether it's a limit of 4 or 5 or 6 units, whatever that may be, I don't know, but that's my thought on it.
Okay. Slim,
I'm not sure of anything. I agree with Rob. It should at least continue for a multifamily. I don't have an answer for how close we get to infinity though here. I'd have to think about that.
Just an example, real quick, where you're not going through the bigger units, the apartments are building over next to the firehouse are a great example of 16 one-bedroom units in one structure. So when we think of infinite numbers, and they ended up needing about an acre plus of land just for wastewater. So some of these big old houses may be great for cutting up, but wastewater is gonna be a big challenge once you get into more than 2, 3, 4 units. So that's just my input, so
okay,
that's good.
thanks. Melissa? Oh. Were you all set, Slim?
Yeah, I just thank Chris for that, and yeah, I'm done.
Okay, Melissa,
No, I just need to, I'm reaching my saturation point. And that's something I want to think about. The whole density thing.
okay, Bill,
At the moment, Kevin, I'm inclined to want to limit it just to duplexes, but I'll certainly think about other options.
okay, thanks, and John,
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like the others do, which is, it seems like there's a lot to think about when we think about this. So I want to think about it some more, but I would just note, maybe it helps us all. I'm just thinking about the village playing area outside of the current village. That is to say, like the village playing area that might future be the village. That's not really highly developed the way the core village is, but it's still in the village planning area that's primed for multifamily, multi-unit apartment buildings, that sort of thing. And I really hope we can find a way to encourage those, especially in that area where we're not sort of bumping up against the much higher density existing village, but we've got this village playing area that is sort of future boundary, if you will, of the village. And, you know, I think we've seen some successful apartment blocks, the one on Plank Street. I think if they had 2 of those, they'd be full now. You know, the one going up down by the firehouse looks great. And I just think that the town would benefit from a lot more of that. It also, you know, let's not forget that all of these densifying things increase the tax base for the village. So that's a really important thing to remember when we increase our tax base in the same piece of real estate, like it's good for the whole town. So yeah, let's find a way to do it. Thank you.
so to tag on to John's question, when we get to, I believe he was talking about, so I can't remember the term, but the lesser
It's
density.
a mix or the village residential.
Yeah, so we would apply these same rules in a different fashion potentially to those areas, and they aren't connected or interrelated to what we do in HDR.
They don't have to be, but they
Is that
could be.
fair?
That's correct. They're separate zones. You have the same structure, so your zoning regulations have the same structure of dimensional standards, but you can make them what you choose them to be.
My initial thought is not to be so liberal with multifamily. And I think that comes from they all too often get a bad rap that may or may not be justified. So I'm open to hear what the discussion and the mood of what overall is. So. And that brings us full circle as far as commentary on that.
Okay, and I'm not sure we came to much of I heard a couple people say they give the same level of bonus as a duplex, and then I heard a couple people say, I don't think I want them here, or I want to give any other level of bonus. And I didn't hear any overwhelming chorus of yes, let's do this. So I'm not sure I'm gonna. And I think we may just table, my suggestion to you is that we may just table HDR and come back to a couple of these issues and move on to the mix and onto the village residential and see what progress we make there. And it might inform our decision back here. So I guess I'm okay with that. And people can still think about this, and we'll give them a little more context by looking at the other districts.
That makes sense. Everybody okay with that?
Yep. And can I just ask a question of Adam?
Sure.
Real quick, Adam, can you recommend anything for the layperson like us to read about density? Anything that you might have read, or I don't know, you don't have to answer that right here now, but if so, I'd love some links or whatever, maybe you could send them around or something, because I just feel like I'm struggling against my own knowledge or lack of knowledge of all the potential and that sort of thing. So I don't know. But if so, that'd be great.
Yeah, so that's a good place to start, is the Enabling Better Places, a Vermont zoning guide for Vermont neighborhoods. It was just put out by the Agency of Commerce August 2020. It would be a good start. And it's online at the Agency of Commerce.
And if you want a hard copy, I have a couple in my office.
I was gonna say, we had a bunch of them sent to us and they were distributed at one point, but we've had turnover on the board, so I'm not sure if everybody has it. So if you don't have it or want the link, just get a hold of Chris or myself.
Yeah, and if we need to, I think we can order more.
Yeah. That's what they have some.
Okay.
I would just note that I did go looking for some information. I found some really amazing information about ADUs and that sort of thing. But it was only marginally utilitarian because it was like Portland, Oregon. Yeah, very progressive zoning and sort of, but not the same kind of place we're talking about. Anyway, I did find a lot just by a quick look, but I just thought I'd ask for anything in particular.
Well, I will still look, but what Rob suggested is a good start.
Okay, any other questions for Adam? So, thank you.
Okay, all right, I will see you in a month. In a month.
Yeah.
Okay,
Typically be the third Tuesday.
third Tuesday. Okay, very good.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize, but I have to remove myself for another appointment at 8:45.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Thank you.
for no-
Okay.
Good night,
I think it was, you're still okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks, John.
So the next, we'll move to item 4. And few things underneath new business. First one is review our policies and procedures document. Being the organizational meeting, we have the chance once a year to change that document, otherwise it remains static, so this is our opportunity to consider that. So I'll entertain anybody that has any suggestions or proposals to change or modify our policies and procedures.
Thank you.
Thanks, see you later. Okay, so I did attach a proposal to talk about some often unwritten but understood or should be understood protocols for I don't know if you call it conduct, how we deal with each other. I'm trying to pull that up. And I am kind of in a flux. I put it out there. It is underneath item 4, expectation of board members.
This one,
Yes.
you show that?
Yeah, please. So at times, these things kind of get forgotten about, and I'm not sure if we want to formalize them or not. I think we need to at least be cognizant of them either informally or formally. So I put this out for discussion and see what the mood is, if we need to formalize our policies and procedures to this level or not.
Stuff.
So, yes.
Go ahead, folks, picture. There we go.
It's hard to read when I move stuff, I know.
I did have a question on what that is at the bottom. Was that just a note, delete from the first paragraph and relocate here? What,
Okay, the last bullet. It is the expectation that commission members, blah, blah, blah. That is currently in our policies and procedures. And what I considered, if we were gonna pull it out and talk about, expectations of members, rather than have that in another paragraph, it kind of blends in with this paragraph. So it's simply moving it from an existing paragraph into this new one if we were to adopt this. So if anybody to move to start talking about this, we need a motion in a second, and if we don't, if that's your pleasure.
I don't know, I would move it to next month to talk about it.
Now, we've got
Just
We got
table it.
this meeting. Yeah, we've got this meeting. We have to do it during our organization.
Oh, you have,
meetings.
oh, okay, that's right, okay. I mean, I've read it before, I mean, it looks fine to me.
If somebody wants to make a motion, that it doesn't mean it's passing, it means you can just have an open discussion.
Motion to discuss the possible addition.
Okay,
Second,
everybody said,
second.
okay. Any discussion on it?
On the discussion, or are you opening discussion of it?
I'm putting discussion of it. yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that a couple of the bullets could probably be stricken. Overall, it was probably a good addition, but I don't know that the clarification of not participating is acquiescing to whatever's being. Well, a couple things like that. I don't have a set. I didn't go through and mark it up.
Yeah, so
Set proposal.
Yeah.
I would suggest removing that, and what was, you said a couple, so there's something else. So in the meantime, Slim, you have your hand up?
Oh, no, I didn't, but I'm reading these over again. And I think my opinion is that these all appear to me to be, I guess you could say aspirational. And
Yeah.
to code, not really something to be codified or to be used too much to criticize people or whatever. I think these are all good. We all would like to be like this, but sometimes people aren't like this, and I don't think I want to take it too seriously. This would just be an aspiration to me and nothing more. That's how I feel.
So, Bill, what do you think?
I think they are reasonable guidelines, or as Slim was saying, aspirational. But and I think if they were identified as such in our organizational meetings, that probably would be fine. But I don't think we'd want to interpret them strictly in ways that could be used to defeat their own purpose, which is to listen carefully to each other and try to understand each other and reach agreement as best we can.
Melissa,
I think, yeah, I mean, these as guidelines is a good thing, as you say not set in stone rules, but in the first bullet point, I would actually replace without emotion with calmly. Because you can't really tell people not to be emotional. It's, you remain calm, but you can also still have emotion.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is this would be a guiding document, not necessarily part of the policies and procedures. If that's so, we should vote no. And it will be dropped off the question of amending the policies and procedures and inherently can become a guiding document. If that makes sense.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So all those in favor of adopting this, say yes. All those opposed, say no.
No,
No,
Okay, no. Okay, no's have it. So we will not add it, but we will consider it a guiding document. And then again, is there any other proposals for modifying policies and procedures?
Do you want some sort of motion just to solidify this document and its acknowledgement as a guiding document, or just the meeting minutes we asked for, do you believe?
We really don't, yeah, you don't have an action to do that. I think we can just let it lie.
Okay, I'm just,
I hear you.
I don't want, there's some really powerful stuff here and I don't want it lost in.
Yeah, I think that if it's gonna be a separate official document, I think we should polish it before we create it
Okay.
officially.
Okay.
And that,
So perhaps we'll bring that back. So polishing would be,
there's some mention of wordsmithing and maybe, I think a couple of these can be combined into one bullet, like 1 and 2 can be kind of just restructured slightly to be combined into one and that sort of stuff that
okay,
I don't know if we want to spend the time on tonight to do that, but
yeah, there's no need to, so we can. Is this a group effort next meeting or sometime?
Or if 1 or 2 people wanted to just take a shot at it, it might be a good way to do it.
some proposals.
Yeah.
Anybody willing to work on this for?
A month from now, mid-March,
Mid-March?
May,
May.
sorry, going backwards. Let's
I
start
will.
spring finally.
Melissa said she can do some.
Okay,
I will.
okay, so the.
Can you,
document-
okay, I do have the copy. That's right. I read it.
So that I can't remember, it may only have a PDF. I did it in Word. If that works for you, I can send you the Word
Yeah.
doc.
Yeah, I think it was
Word.
just the PDF.
Word
Yeah.
would be good. Yes.
Okay. So discussion, and it was on last month's, again, just a reminder to review the town conflict of interest procedure, if you haven't already. The next item under new business is the Conservation Commission. And there was an email as well as their sort of work plan put together. They are in the process of working with some people at Middlebury College to update the wildlife corridors, which ultimately will affect the town plan. And they have been in contact to kind of let us know what's going on. And they asked for a meeting to kind of like get up to, for the planning commission, get up to speed on what their plans are to update those corridor maps. I have agreed to do that. I would also welcome anybody else to join in on that if they so desire. And then they haven't specifically asked for liaison from the planning commission through the whole process, but that whole activity will be impactful to our mapping when we go and do our town plan in whatever it is, 2018 or whatever. So it may be good to have somebody that's in on the ground floor with that and work with them through that whole process. So it's out there, hopefully, like I said, if anybody is interested in meeting with them, I'll set up the meeting and let you know. Otherwise, I will meet with them and report back next month. Okay. Next, we'll go to item 5, administrative matters. We have 2 sets of rats. We may want to table one of these. There's one of them, I think it's the 4-4 one.
It needs some tweaking.
That needs some tweaking, and some of it was,
I give you the statute, you are correct on them. I reviewed it. You got it.
okay, so maybe we can just go ahead and do it. Which one was it? The April 4th?
4-4, I believe. Important statutes again.
So there was some comments I had about the 4-4 meeting. And one was on line 45. If you want to pull it up. Got it there.
Oh, I have to meet this here.
Draft. So on line 45, it says front yard setback 40 feet for principal, 20 feet for accessory, and I think that's backwards.
No, it's just supposed to be for accessory behind principal,
Okay, so 40 feet for principal, 20 feet behind.
the principal for the
principal
accessory.
accessory.
Yeah, because if you look up at the table, it says behind principal front line, which is supposed to go just for the 20-foot accessory.
It was to leave that as worded, right?
No, it would say 20 feet behind principal for accessory, I would think, right?
It already. What I'm saying is that the current, if you look up above in the table, it says 40 feet principal, 20 feet accessory behind the principal front line.
Yeah.
And I believe you wanted to leave that as,
We're gonna leave it as is, but the way it's written in line 45, I don't think reflects.
Maintain, I think that's just a note that agreed to maintain it. Which, if that's, are you sharing, Chris, or is this just what we're saying?
thank you, hang on, thank you. My bad. Oops. I should be fine there. I'm hoping, let me go get a power cord while I bring this up. Share.
You're right back. So,
Now, it's probably semantics, but to me, it'd make it more clear if we said the same thing.
okay, just copy that in parentheses down
Yeah.
into the meeting minutes.
Yeah.
All right,
And,
Let me slide down just a second on this cup.
then on line 74 and 75. The reference citing 24 VSA 4426, I believe is 4416.
That is correct. There is no 4426. 4416 is site plan review, and that is what that is discussing.
And then on line 75, I've got a no, I believe this is 1 and 2 family as well as ADUs are not subject to the site plan review, but multifamily are clarify this.
Yes,
I believe that was backwards.
it is backward.
So we need to change that.
Mhm.
So I noticed, so I would propose those changes to the minutes. Does anybody else have any changes to the minutes or? Okay, so I entertain a motion to approve the minutes with the identified changes then.
Yes.
Rob approved. We don't technically need a second. For minutes, you don't.
Right, because you can't not approve minutes.
So, yeah.
I
So
keep
everybody in
forgetting
favor,
that,
raise
so.
your hand, say aye, whatever.
Aye.
Okay,
Alright.
do you have anything for the zoning administrator report?
Things are starting to pick up. That's all I can tell you right now. It went from, oh, look, it's nice and quiet to, you could tell it was nice this past weekend.
Everybody wants.
My phone has been ringing off the hook.
Okay, for the next miscellaneous correspondence, I sent you out a liner. For Vermont Community Development Association for a conference they're putting on. Town implementation plan, we sent out. Sheets for individual groups to update. It's been going slow, including. The planning commissions, John and I were supposed to get together, maybe even with Chris, and we haven't done that yet. And then the last thing, we had identified, item D. Is we do have an open seat. So, the select board will go forward and start advertising that, but usually the best way to fill that seat is tap on shoulders with somebody that you think would be a good fit. Any further discussion on item 5 issues? Okay, and we have any public comment? Doesn't look like it. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Melissa,
Second on
second.
Melissa.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much for your patience. Good evening.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Good night, thanks.